chosen generation. We've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation. Blessed Wednesday morning to all listeners locked on to Hope 103.1 FM. All I require for life. It is a joy to be here with you. I know who I am. I know. As we enter another episode of Leadership Plus. Where He says I'm at, I know who I am. I know who God says I am. What He says I am. Today we are joined by none other than Reverend John Lewis. I'm working in power. I'm working miracles. I live a life of favor. Blessed morning to you, Reverend John. How are you today?
Good morning to you, Sister Abigail. It's always good to be with you on this Wednesday morning. And we thank God for His goodness to us as we look around this beautiful isle. And there's sunshine and lovely breeze and pleasant oceans that we could all enjoy, especially when we have less limitations on the movement. And we trust that it will remain like that for the weeks and months and years ahead.
Mm-hmm. I have a few questions before we get into today's topic.
Sure.
Do you enjoy being a leader?
Exactly. I think I was called to be a leader. So I think once you understand that, when you have a sense of what you're called to do, it gives you a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment. And I think that's what you are called to do, to be a host, a radio broadcaster for Hope FM. And I'm sure that you're having a ball, having a great time doing that part of the ministry as well.
Yes. Serving God in whatever capacity brings a lot of joy and fulfillment. So we're going to talk today about teamwork makes the dream work. And we know that some tasks are too herculean or too big to assume as an individual, and a team is needed. And studymanagement.com says that teams are formed when individuals with common tasks, preference, liking, and attitude come and work together to make a common goal work. And John Maxwell also said, teamwork make the dream works, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. Today, as I said, we're talking about teamwork makes the dream works. Could you walk us through today's topic and what we're talking about today?
Great. Thank you for that good introduction, Abigail. And so to begin our time today, there are three things that great teams possess. One, they must have a common goal. Everyone must be on the same page. Secondly, they bring together diverse skills and contributions. So everyone is original in the sense of the gifting and skills and training they have received. So we bring all those diversities together. And then there has to be a strong coaching and commitment and communication as well. So a common goal, we have to clarify the goal, what it is we want to accomplish, and define that. And so we can explain it and communicate it clearly. So there has to be a strong sense of people understanding and communicating well the goal that we are seeking to achieve. And then we utilize the diversity of the skills and the competencies and hone that together in a pool of resources and human capital to accomplish the task ahead of us. So that's, I believe, is the foundation or the starting point of when we're seeking to build a good team to accomplish a particular purpose.
Right. So we know that we need a team, and the leader has to ensure that he has a proper team. Could you take us through some more details on what it takes to make an effective team.
Right. So we have about 10 recommendations for discussion today. What makes an effective team? Fundamental to an effective team building is an effective team cares for one another. It has to do with relationship. If we are not um, comfortable in our skins among one another on our team, and instead of understanding and appreciation for one another, we are competitive or involved in a process that is not healthy, that breaks down in terms of the relationship. So um, we don't have to be identical, like identical twins, but we have to understand that and appreciate the differences that we bring to the team. Of course, we talked about the different personalities that make up a team and how it only seeks to strengthen the team. But the factor here that we want to begin with is that there has to be a genuine care and concern for one another on your team. And under this major endeavor and concern, that we have to imbibe the second mile principle. Smile because they are doing a job or they are just part of an organization. But because of the relationship that we have within our team, people go and do much more than is expected of them. They will spend longer time on an assignment or on a project with you. They will give sacrificially to what you're doing because they believe in what you're doing and will make the necessary sacrifices that come with the kind of relationship. So that is fundamental. And then also connecting points. Leaders always touch a heart before they ask for a hand. So we connect at the heart level. We connect at the emotional level, and it's not just an academic consent to that. Oh, this is a great idea, and we agree on it mentally, but it has to affect us deeply at the matter of the heart, emotionally, and of course spiritually. So we want to also the sense of caring for another. We have to host the conversation. As you would invite friends to your home, you are considered to be the host of the get together or the meeting or whatever we describe it as. And so they host the conversation and relationships. They initiate as a host rather than wait for others to serve as a guest. So you host the conversation, you facilitate the meetings or the getting together, and so that there is a sense of preparedness, like you would do normally if you're having guests come at your house and you're inviting them for a meal or whatever. Of course, you prepare well for that. You get a sense of what people may like to have, and you prepare according to probably taste. Make sure that the environment is clean and prepared. In the same way, for a team, you do the preparation that is necessary. You have a sense of who your team members are. Of course, you would have done some background research on the team members that you're bringing together. So you're not just arbitrarily grabbing people and asking them to be part of your team. Just like Jesus did, he went out. As a matter of fact, the starting point of his own selection was to spend the night in prayer before. And so that's going to be important, especially if you're building a spiritual leadership team that you are seeking guidance from God. And so that's the primary challenge that we have. People have a sense that you do care for them, not just because of what they can bring to your organization or bring to your church, your denomination, what they can offer, but there's a sense that I'm appreciated and that I'm cared for, especially when things go awry. People may not be able to function as you expect them to because of illness, or in these days, in times of death and loss and grief. But how they understand that you care for them will make a whole heap of difference, as we would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, an effective team grows together. So we are not competing against one another here. We are seeking the resources, we are seeking the human capital that we are seeking to invest in others. And so in areas that we are weak for the organization, we want to bring up those areas and strengthen them. If we are weak in communication or in marketing or promotions, we want to strengthen those areas. So we're growing together. And growing together means that we are learning together. We probably are attending an important workshop on a particular issue pertaining to our work, so that we can bounce it off one another when we get back into our organization and benefit from it. And we're seeking for opportunities to prepare training for others. If there is a workshop or seminar, a podcast, whatever now is available out there, to recommend it and says, I believe that's a good thing to listen to. I send you a link for something that I believe can cause you to grow in your area of strength and expertise. So we have to grow as an important aspect of building an effective team. The
Right.
leaders growth it. Sorry.
You said that the team grows together. Is it that the team and the leader grows at the same pace, or is it that the leader would have been there before and takes is an opportunity maybe for bonding to sit with the team as they may be introduced to new information, or is it that he learns together at the same time or before?
Great. That's a great question. Um, all good leaders, great leaders, is usually a step ahead of their team.
Right.
That makes him the leader, or makes her the leader. And leaders grow determines the organizational growth. If we are not growing together, the organization suffers, stifles, and unfortunately sometimes dies because we are not growing. Just in the natural realm, if one is not well or is having physical challenges of health, they would suffer from growing as normal as they ought to. In the same way, if there are lack of growth in the organization, if perhaps 10 years ago you have started a movement organization, for example, and we are still here today at the same place, we will eventually fizzle out, because growth is not stagnant. Growth is constantly moving forward. So life and society are constantly changing. And if as an organization that you are lagging behind in your propensity for growth and expansion, you're going to be left out of what is expected of you within the community in which you attempt to serve. And then also, a leader cannot lead a follower beyond what he or she has personally grown. So we cannot take people beyond where we are. So if we are not growing as the leaders, our people will not grow in the same way that we are expected to have them grow. The leadership team must pay close attention that we are on track together, that we are gelling together, that there is no miscommunication. What is the purpose of this organization? So we start, of course, like we discussed before, what is the mission of this organization? What is the vision of this organization? What is the purpose of this organization? And everyone needs to learn those statements by heart. So when you meet together, you're asking each team member, just on the spur of the moment. What is our mission statement? Somebody else, what is our vision statement? So it is constantly refreshed in our minds. Have it, on a board up there in a prominent place in your office, especially where you meet as your board meetings or management team meetings, and it is in bold and highlighted, and so it is in the DNA. It becomes part of the DNA of the organization.
One
And
voice, one
then,
sound.
yes, one voice at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders must improve to stay in front of the organization. Um, so you have to pick those things that would keep your organization responding to the change that we are experiencing every day in a changing environment of leadership and management. We actually doing a program, a course called Change Management now, and it is talking about our mindset. Whether we have a closed mindset that we have become so accustomed to doing things the same way and expecting different results, or we have a growth mindset. So mindset is critical for the growth and expansion of your organization and building a strong team together. So we have to care for one another. There's principal issue there that we have to remember. Um, and then we have to be growing together. We have to be growing together. We grow together in this particular team effort and team building.
And as you grow together, a certain chemistry comes forward. There's a worship team that has taken the world by storm now, Elevation Worship. And I was listening to one of the interviews, and what the young man said, the interviewer was asking about how is it that you all know how to sing so and gel so well together, because they're famous for spontaneous worship. And what the gentleman said, I think it's Chandler Moore, he said is that we're really good friends. We understand each other. We spend time together so that when one worships, he knows oh, this is where he's going, and you can sense the chemistry. Could you walk us through when a team has chemistry, what happens with that team?
Great. So there is bonding in the team, and usually that doesn't take place within a meeting.
No.
So we have to deliberately plan activity around where we can spend time outside of the office, as it were, outside of the space that we meet for functions, but rather we're in more relaxed situations. Take your team out on a hike together. Do some fun things together. Do some team building exercises together, outdoors activities, so that's where you probably see the real color of our people,
Yeah.
how they respond, when people rub them the wrong way, and you see how they respond. But you have to deliberately and intentionally plan. A retreat is so critical for your organization, at least once a year,
Yeah.
just to get away for a weekend. And that takes planning and preparation. And you basically have an agenda of what you want to accomplish, mixed in with relaxation and rest and creative thinking. So in order for us to grow, we have to make room for those things. If we keep mashing gas all the time, we're going to get empty. So if you don't stop by the gas station and realize that the needle's showing red, and you're going to run out, of course, on the road, and then it becomes a real challenge when you have to walk back to a gas station to fill up, unless you do the proper thing and notice when your needle is dropping and when the gas tank is getting low. So emotionally, our tank gets low because we're constantly giving out. So emotionally, people asking you to provide counseling, provide support for them. So you're constantly on the giving end of things as leaders, and unless you are refilled and renewed, um, and equipped, then you become drained yourself, and then ultimately you yourself cannot really help anyone else. You cannot function to your capacity.
Yeah. The text points out a few pointers that what happens when a team has good chemistry. It says relationships are strong, desires are similar, trust is evident, roles are clear, abilities are complementary, players are appreciated, morale is high, wins are frequent, motives are pure, and benefits are received by all. And these just are a few things that happen when a team has good chemistry. And I tell you, when that happens, you know, it's great to see what will come out of those efforts by that team. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in Leadership Plus with Reverend John Lewis, and we're discussing under the topic teamwork makes the dream work. And if you have any questions, if you have any points or suggestions, feel free. We're live and you can send them in on our YouTube platform. That's Hope FM Grenada, or you can send in your questions on 403-1031. Reverend, could you continue taking us through?
Right. Thank you. So we have just discussed an effective team is where the chemistry fits, and we looked at some of those ways how to build the chemistry. And then also we have to know and practice, which is important. Now that is an important distinction between what is important and what is urgent. Of course, emergencies will crop up within an organization, but we cannot be always driven by emergencies. And that just shows lack of planning and anticipation of things that may come up. So it has to be a place where we know and understand and practice what is important and not just what is urgent. And then we also understand that an effective team places individual rights below the team. Okay, so now that's important. We have to understand that the team effort gets priority over our individual rights. The truth is, in a nutshell, individualism wins trophies, but teamwork wins championship. So within a team, we come with different personalities and different ideas in a team, but this is not where you're seeking to score your own goal, as it were. We've seen that teams have lost winning a championship because an individual determines he or she must score this goal. They're not a goal scorer, but they think that this is a time for their 30-second of fame, and screws up because they have missed the net completely. There's no way within the range of how to get this ball into the goal. And we have to guard against the individualism when we come to a team building effort and strengthening our team. We bring all of our strengths together in a corporate way. And so we lay aside our individualism at this point for the good of the team and what we can accomplish as a team. So there's a code of cooperation. Everyone carry your particular load for the organization. Don't pass on your load of responsibility to another member of the team. You will probably burden that person down. Respect other team members. Now, you think that would come naturally, but not always. How do you respect one another on the team? Of course, there are going to be disagreements on your team. There are going to be arguments. That's just a normal part of living, whether it's in our home, whether it's in our church, whether it's in our business and governments. I'm sure in those cabinet meetings, they have the tussle up between what we should agree on. But the fact of the matter, there remains that constant respect, even in the midst of disagreements and conflicts. And how we handle conflict, basically, we have to separate the issue from the person, so that we do not attack the person, as a result of the conflict. and denigrate and try to minimize the strength of the person, but rather we take the issue, separate it from what is causing the conflict, and deal with it. So we have to respect every member on our team, and then to appreciate their value, understand their value. On each person bring a particular value to your team, and that's why you have a team, because you alone cannot be a team. You cannot complete all the work of a team. So understand the value of the team, and that's where, as leaders, we must constantly appreciate the value that every team member bring to your organization. Look for ways to add value to them. So you provide incentives for your team members. They need a particular support in this area of their work, or whether it's at a personal level or whether it's at organization level. So we add value to them and make them become a better person. Come together ready to contribute. So it is not just something that comes up automatically, that you just throw out in a meeting. Of course, a meeting is prepared, presented with the minutes and preparation, a while before you get together. So you should come prepared to make your own contribution, an observation to what the plans are. See the big picture. Very often we tend to have this very minuscule image and picture of what the goal is, but try to have a broadened perspective. So see the big picture. What is the overarching goal that we are seeking? Give up your rights. Sometimes that's not always easy to do, particularly if you're a leader of the group. But that just shows the strength of a leader, willing to give up your own personal rights and personal agenda, and to respect the group's decision. So a group can disagree with their leader, but if it's a group decision, it really says to you as a leader, that's something that you probably should go along, and probably evaluate your own perspective on a particular matter. Represent the team's position, not yours. Privately and publicly affirm one another. We talked about that, appreciation for one another. Accept responsibility for the team's standing. Okay, so we cannot leave a meeting and come away and sort of judge the other members of your team. That can happen quite often, where you may not necessarily disagree with everything that the team has decided on, but you have to come away from that setting, environment. Look, that was a team's decision, and I'm going to give it my 100% to support the decision made by the team, rather than to unfortunately seek support from other members of the team to circumvent the plans of the decision of the team. So those are some critical recommendations of placing your own individualism below the standard that the team has set for you.
Right. Remember, you can send in your questions on 4031031, or you can post them on our YouTube platform. As a team goes forth in building and meeting the objectives set, and to ensure that there is a healthy team and so forth, what are some questions or some things that a team should ask itself, to ensure that it is functioning at maximum or at its best force as a team?
Great. So there are some questions that will draw us out. Do respect and trust each other. So that's a conversation that needs to take place. And so you would have developed a sense of trust within your organization, so that people are free to talk, and express their opinions and views. And sometimes it is uncomfortable. you want to be transparent within your organization, and some things that you feel may not be going right within the organization, you should have the right to say those things without being condemned for them. But that takes time to develop trust and respect within your organization, so that people are willing to speak the truth to you, even though that truth might offend members of the team or even offend the leader of the team. So respect and trust, they're critical values. And then, do we have concern for each other? Like we talked before, the relationship. Are you honestly interested in the welfare of your colleagues? Um, we casually would ask the question, "How are you today?" And we don't wait for the answer.
Mm.
Well, so we ask the question, but it's more like a greeting. We don't really have the time to listen to your conversation. Because if you really want to know how you're doing, it means that you have some time to listen to the response. Or we would say, the Christian community has um, this response, "Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored." Uh, that's not a complete response, although it's a nice um, religious way to respond. "I'm fine."
Mhm,
But if you really dig down and ask, "Are you really fine?"
mhm,
You realize that's not the true answer that the person wants to give. You'll find very often,
mhm,
if you do have the time to listen and you really want to know how the other person is doing, um, it has to show that concern, that you're willing to listen out to the person. Do team members feel free to communicate openly? In an environment of open and free communication, a team can achieve anything.
true.
And if everything is possible within a safe environment, so that confidentiality is so critical to these kinds of discussions. When you make yourself vulnerable, when you expose yourself about perhaps some areas of weakness in your personal life, or in whatever issue that you may be struggling, that information stays within that room or
Mhm,
that environment, that there's no sense that this information is spilled out in prayer meetings, that we could seek to create a sort of false guise for exposing somebody's issues, because you're saying, "Let's pray for um, Sister X because she has this particular concern." And all you're doing is gossiping
mhm,
under the guise of a great exercise in prayer or Bible study. And so we subtly divulge information that are intended um, for private conversation.
mhm,
So you have to keep those conversations um, confidential.
mhm,
Um, do we understand our team's goals? Without a clear focus of our team goals, even the best team will drift. So we bring you back to the goals all the time. That's why when you go to soccer matches or any other games, but you observe it a lot in the soccer matches, that timeout, they would call it timeout in the game.
mhm.
And because they're losing, the guy's not scoring,
Right.
and the coach, being a good coach, call the team aside
Mhm,
and give them some instructions in a short couple minutes.
mhm,
He might take you off the bench. We'll talk about that a little bit.
mhm,
Okay, that's one of the other things. But these are some of the questions that a team should ask. Do we make good use of each member's ability? Do remember that and feel they are making a worthwhile contribution. So every person's contribution is valuable.
mhm,
So understand that we bring different strengths to the organization. We are weak in some areas, but we are strengthening our team because there are people who bring that strength. Do we handle conflict? successfully. Every team will have conflict. Success is judged by how conflict is handled within the team as a whole. Every team, no matter how great the team is, will experience conflict. We are just wired that way. We have miscommunication, well, I didn't hear you say that. I didn't understand that's what you meant. And so clarification. So conflict is just a natural part of being a human being, of living. What of us have our parents understand that with our children. If we are married, we understand it with our spouse. That happens on a regular basis, but it's how we handle those conflicts. And then, does everyone participate? So we allow everyone, and that's where the role of a leader is so significant. Um, some of us are a little more reserved than others. Some of us could carry a conversation for a long time in our meetings, and very often you would find one or two persons almost dominating the conversation.
Oh,
But the wise leader would call on you,
yeah.
Sister Abigail, we haven't heard from you in a while. And very often the person has a lot to say. But because of the dominance of one or two personalities, they get lost in the conversation because they are not, up on being upfront, big on being upfront. But you will realize that very often the very quiet and conservative member of your team perhaps has the better conversations or the better contributions to make to your organization. So be aware of that no one is left out in your participatory meeting. Do respect our individual differences. Of course, do we like being members of this team? True success depends enjoying what you do, and that includes enjoying your team. Do we like one another? Of course, if you don't like one another, you're not going to function well.
True.
So sometimes you have to change the members on your team. Now that's a big job for the team leader. How do you let go a team member?
It's not for the weak in heart.
Sometimes in our own administration and planning crusade, we had to let go leaders in our team. We said, look, the members of this particular team doesn't want you to be their leader anymore. And we're asking you to step down. You make the tough call. That's a role of a leader. Making the tough call, and that's one of our lessons perhaps at some time we'll come up to. A leader has to be resilient and confident in his own gifts and skills. And that's why God has made him a leader, or made her a leader, so that he can make tough calls within the organization. Look, appreciate the time you have served us. Perhaps now is not the time to have you any longer. And we part you with kind words of appreciation. We express it through gifts, but that's just the fact of the matter. That you may not necessarily mean to be with us all the time with this organization, and because we have to like one another, in the organization that we work. So those are some real important things to know. Some of the questions we need to ask of each other. You might find that some people don't like you at all within the organization. So what do you do? I mean, if you're really going around the circle of friends and you say, do you guys really like me to be the leader of this group? And 90% says, no, it's time to leave.
Oh my.
I mean, yeah. you have to really get real with yourself. Because we could be very pretentious in how we function. That we think that everybody really likes us. The truth of the matter, that's not the fact. Really, you have assumptions that this group really wants me to be their leader, and they probably saying underneath their breath, "But time for him to go." Why is he staying on so long? He outlasts his time. So a leader must also know when it's time to go, Abigail.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Don't overstay your time.
leave on a good note.
Yes.
Right. Earlier, I mentioned a quote by John Maxwell. A team, as we were discussing on the teamwork makes the dream work, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. And the text points out that the kind of people you recruit should be determined by the goals you believe God has given you. Could you just walk us through the appropriate gifts that a leader can look for in team members?
Great. So we're going to use the word gifts as an acronym and describe the kind of people. So the first letter is, of course, G, and it talks about having gifted members. Look for specific gifts and abilities in other people that are crucial to achieving your goals. That takes time and hard work. Sometimes we're in a rush to build a team because we have a particular deadline we want to launch as an organization and do not take the necessary pains to determine what are the gifts and skills we need for this organization and identify those persons. Um, so a good team would make up of various kinds of people. They recommend to us that when you're looking for people, of course, you're looking for an innovative leader, creative leader. That's where you begin, of course. And then you want someone who is very detailed in your organization. Um, one that looks for the finer things within your organization, who could bring a detailed report together and not just give you bullet points after your meeting is complete. So you don't even have a clue what was discussed. A detailed person. And then you need a manager within your team. Very often the leader may not be the manager because he may not have the management skills to take a project or take an idea and break it down into bite-sized pieces and to make it work. I like to do that. Somebody gives a big idea. We want to reach this nation for Christ. I like that vision. And I believe I have been gifted in the area of administration where I could take that big national idea, break it down, set up teams of people, zone the country. We have done that before in other islands and build strong teams and execute. And so you have to know what kinds of people. You need a monitor, somebody to keep you on track. And somebody who says to you, we are going off track here. This is not where we intend to, this is not where we want to finish. And it would pull us back. You need somebody who keeps you accountable in terms of financial credibility and stuff like that. So gifted people. So we're not just asking people to volunteer in your organization. That's a different level of your organization. Of course, we all do well with volunteerism. We need all those people. But you're talking about your executive team, your management team, your leadership team. You have been selective. And then the I in gifts is influential people. Look for people who have influence with others. So you're not looking for people who are just starting up in that sense. Of course, those are people that you'll groom, and because we do not necessarily become an influential person overnight. But part of your responsibility as a training institution, in our case, is to bring the younger people up and give them the training that would make them become a person of influence. So they must have some sort of track record. If you're building a strong team, what are they good at? What have you observed? You would have observed them. It's like if you're looking for soloists, for example, for an event, for a concert, you would have to go out and be at a function where this person sings or perform and determine whether if that's the person you want to be part of your event. Scouting is what the sports people call it. And so they come and see you play a game, whatever game it is, whether it's soccer, whether it's netball, whatever sport you're playing. And the coach would observe your moves and how well you're performing, and then determine we want to recruit you. We want to give you a scholarship to come to our university or come to our program because we anticipate that you will function well. So people who have done well in particular fields of work and ministry in the context of the church. And so we're not just bringing a new convert on your leadership team. And then faithful workers. The F, GIF, look for people who are already faithful to Christian commitments that they have made. So these are people who have been faithful in the little things, as the Bible talks about. those who are faithful in the small things, God will provide greater room for them in the larger. If we are unfaithful in little things, God is now going to give you more responsibilities. So people who are faithful in the little things, they tell us that most of the time the people who become a chair of a committee, they start by moving the chairs around in the room. They are servants. They make sure the building is kept and cleaned, and they're doing insignificant things, as it were. But that's where we all begin sometimes, sweeping the floors, um, welcoming people to the event, just handing out the programs, and they develop. But faithful workers in little
Yeah,
things.
that
And
is very
then,
important.
sorry.
The person that hands out a program is very important because sometimes the first face, the first interaction determines how well you probably enjoy what you're coming to, if you're going to come back again. So it's very important, even though it may seem like a minuscule or a small task, handing out the
Right.
program, giving a smile at the
Yes.
entrance, that is very important.
That's the first person of contact, and very often, if that is not handled well, they do not come back to your church,
Very true.
back to your business, or back to the event. We've had bad experiences of people who have gone to business places and looking, for example, for a product, and you're asking the first person that you could see, and they tell you, go down this way, or try to. It's the first time you're going to this business place, and they are telling you if you go down this way and you turn left or you turn right. I mean, generally, my response is to just go outside back, turn around, and find another place for what I'm looking for. Teachable spirit. We all have to have an attitude. Look for people who are willing to learn and be flexible with teammates. So we have never arrived, no matter what level of training or education we have received or seeking to receive. Learning is a daily process. So the question for us as leaders, what book are you reading today? And you should be able to give me a title. You cannot say I read, books when I was in primary school or in secondary school. But today, what book is on your table? What is in front of you? And particularly, there's so much on leadership now that you're overwhelmed with the quantities of materials that you could have. And then, of course, on the T is a teachable spirit. On the S is a servant heart. Look for people who want to serve others, not gain recognition. So that takes time. How are you going to observe? If you're looking to recruit somebody on your team, you have to make effort to find out where they're serving first. Where it takes effort to do that. If they may not live in the same community or the same parish, like for Grenada, for example. And if you have been introduced or somebody has recommended somebody who lives, for example, in Sautiers, that they think that this is a good person for your team, you have to get up and go and drive up there and check them out and find recommendations for these persons. So gifts, for the word gifts, gifted members, influential people for the I, F, faithful workers, T, teachable spirit, and S, servant heart.
Yeah. And having those people on your team, that sounds like the dream team. And I remember, in basketball, there is when they will send off a team to participate in Olympics or the bigger games, you have all the best team off of each team. So of the Knicks, of the Nets, and you had the different players come together, the best of the best. And of course, they were called the dream team. And likewise, when you pull together these different people, of course, I believe you can say we would have the dream team. you know?
Yes, absolutely. So that's the kind of team that we need to build. And then there's some questions for evaluation. So if you're there and taking notes, or you want to write some things down, here's some questions. So an effective team cares for one another. So your answer is either no, somewhat, or yes. I hope you will write a yes for that, because that's what is expected. An effective team knows what is important. No, somewhat, yes. Of course, the answer there should be yes. An effective team grows together. And of course, that's another yes. An effective team has a team fit. So we are building together a team that meshes together. Of course, you have done many puzzles in your life,
Mhm.
and if one little piece is lost, no matter, especially if it's a 1,000 piece
Mhm.
puzzle, there's this tiny thing that could hide under the chair or someplace that is fell out of the box. And
Mhm.
no matter how hard you try to fit another piece in the puzzle, it doesn't work in there. Sometimes we are trying to force a
Mhm.
piece of the puzzle to fit in where it doesn't belong,
Mhm.
and it sticks out because it doesn't fit. So all of our team members have to fit in the right place to
Mhm.
complete the puzzle of your leadership. And an effective team realizes that everyone plays a special role. So you're important. We emphasize the importance of the individual, but not individualism. There's a huge distinction there. You are important, contributor to this team. An effective team pays the price. Teamwork is costly.
Mhm.
Um, there are times when we are required to give the second mile. Sometimes things do happen, and there's a, a greater concern for this deadline to happen and to meet. And you call out the team and says, "Look, perhaps we need to meet later after we work this evening.
Mhm.
Could you make a special?" But that's not norm. You can't make the normal that every evening you have an emergency. You would lose the entire team.
True.
They will think you don't know what you're doing. But
Mhm.
that's on unusual situations. And so, it is just critical that teamwork makes the dream works. And um, how we build those teams, it's so important for our success and the success for God's kingdom in the Christian perspective. But even these principles apply right across the board.
Mhm.
Whether you're building a business, if you don't have the right team people, it's going to crash.
True.
If you have dishonest people, people who lack integrity, if you put them to handle your finances,
Mhm.
you won't know where your money is going.
Mhm.
If you're running in government and you don't have men and women of integrity and trustworthiness, um, you'll find that the treasury is empty and the country is bankrupt
Mhm.
because we don't have honest and trustworthy people. So the principles apply right across the board, whether um, you're starting a small group of people in the church, men, women, youth, children, just to use the church as an example, you have to look for those kinds of people. And then you add your volunteers after you build your team. And then within the business community, you know that you want to sell a particular product. You're seeking for somebody who is skilled and understanding this particular product. If you have a construction company and you're hiring people that only knows how to write essays, um, essay writing is a great skill, but it may not be so relevant if we are seeking to discover what quality of lumber
Mhm.
you're seeking to sell and where you're sourcing them from. So
Yes.
we want to mesh your skills with the need.
Mhm.
So here are the needs of the organization. You determine those are the needs you want to meet. These are the goals you want to accomplish. And then you fill those needs with the resources of people and material of equipment that you need to accomplish these goals. So it's teamwork is a great exercise to do. And there are many ways to do teamwork exercises, the one of trust. Um, and there are many examples. There are a lot of good videos
Mhm.
that you could source. Just Google it, as we would say.
Mhm.
Teamwork, and is amazing, amazing examples
Mhm.
and illustration of how we can develop those teamwork.
Great. It's awesome. We've been having a great download of good information that can help us, to be better team players and leaders. Reverend John Maxwell made this quote that everything rises and falls on leadership. And we spoke a little bit earlier on growth. Could you just remind us before we close off today's session on the importance of the leader, to grow and to help his team grow? because we do know that the organization rise and fall based on growth. So could you just,
Exactly.
yeah.
So an effective team grows together.
Mm-hmm.
The leader's growth determines the organization's growth.
Mm-hmm.
Life and society are constantly changing
Mm-hmm.
and growing.
Yeah.
So the challenge for each of us is that um, we complain that we don't have time to go to school. Well, school has come to us. Training has come to us right at your fingertips, as we would say. It's right in. You could be sitting down in your home and doing an excellent study
Mm-hmm.
of an area that you weaken and you want to complement. So the opportunity is limitless if you're serious about your personal growth. And age has no limitations of your growth.
True.
Some people say age is just a number. But say it depends on your perspective.
True.
I mean, the history of all the people that have gone back to colleges, um, parents who have sacrificed send their children to colleges and they have graduated, and these parents are going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, we have seen cases where both parents and 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 children are graduating on the same day.
True. I've even heard a story about a friend, two neighbors. She all of a sudden didn't see her neighbor. It's a true story. I was talking to the young lady a couple years ago. She didn't see her neighbor. All of a sudden, she's not seen her from some years actually passed by. And then she saw her and she's like, well, I haven't seen. She came back and she started speaking with her and like, I haven't seen you for a long time. Where have you been? She said, I went to get my bachelor's degree. And you know how old the lady was? She was 75.
Oh man, I tell
Age
you.
really doesn't stop us from learning.
Not at all. So the growth challenge is there for all of us. Where we want to grow, and you have to choose your field of growth.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot choose every field of growth. Otherwise, we're scattered in our focus.
Mm-hmm.
So you determine if you want to be an IT person, that you would choose a course on IT and where you want to accomplish that. If you want to be a radio host, where you go for your technical, your support for doing that kind of work. If you want to be a good farmer, then you look for the best space for agricultural training
Mm-hmm.
and practical development. So if you want to be an engineer, then you choose that particular field of study. Um, Although we see some geniuses these days, it's amazing that students are getting 16 CXC subjects,
Mm-hmm.
18, 21.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the last one I saw was 21 subjects.
Oh, that's a lot, yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
you just have to say that's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
And they could go anywhere in terms of whatever particular field they want to serve. And so that gives them a lot of options. So some of us are not that um, bright, as we would say. So
Oh
we,
my.
we, we choose our battles. We choose
Mm-hmm.
our battles, choose our area of gifts and strengths,
Yeah.
and focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we seeking to understand in the final analysis, why has God put me on the earth
Mm-hmm.
at this particular time in history?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is a particular lifespan that each of us has in this history of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so is to find out if we haven't really discovered this yet, what it is that I am brought into this world. What purpose was I created
Mm-hmm.
and what purpose I'm to fulfill? And if we don't have that clearly defined, we can always go back to the maker.
Of course.
We can always go back to the creator.
Mm-hmm.
If you're driving a Ford or Toyota or Nissan, whatever, if you have a problem, you have, and nobody else could fix it,
Mm-hmm.
usually the maker of the model can give you a hint
Mm-hmm.
on how to correct what's wrong with your vehicle. As an example, God who created us, He made us. He therefore knows how to fix us.
That's right.
and to put us on a path of growth
Hmm.
and personal development.
Yeah, we can pray and say, Lord, give me the requisite information I need for the purpose you have for me. In no uncertain terms, Lord, tell me what is the type of information, what
Mm.
should I study, where should I go? And of course, He never leads us wrong. And we want to thank you again for such a great day where we've shared a lot of good information. And we really appreciate again the initiative that you have taken to share with us in this setting, the aspects of leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been with Reverend John for the past hour, and we're about to shut the window down. And we thank you for being with us today. And is there any final words you want to say, Reverend, just before we end today's session?
So teamwork is hard work. Good, good.
Yeah,
So let's not just assume that it's a walkover in
right.
the park. We make blunders when we choose the wrong team members, and that happens in every organization.
Mhm,
And we have to find corrective ways to mend those gaps. And it's a process that sometimes we as leaders become impatient with. Why is it that we are not, getting a full cadre of good team leaders? But
mhm,
of course, it takes time. It takes listening to others who have done well in that field. It's always good to bounce off on somebody who apparently is successful in developing teams
mhm,
and on a right trajectory,
mhm,
trajectory
mhm,
of their organization, of their ministry, of their church, and we could always learn from one another. Of course, we constantly have to be on a growth mindset and willing to learn,
mhm.
willing to accept the change and adapt to the changing environment in which we find ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Reverend John is wearing a white Hope T-shirt,
Oh
and
yes, yes, of course. We have
yes.
to celebrate. We have to market Hope FM. I trust that you will invite your friends and all across the globe to be part of this movement of
Right.
seeking to proclaim the good news and to provide invaluable information
Yes.
to our listeners. Thank you very much.
So if you're interested in having a white T-shirt or a black, you can contact us at 4031 and you too can have a Hope T-shirt. So that's our session for today. And again, we thank you, Reverend John, and we thank you, listeners, for staying locked on to Hope 103.1 FM. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So stay tuned, and we look forward again to having you in our company again next week, John, Reverend John. Have a good
Thank
one,
you. Thank
everyone.
you.
Good
God
afternoon.
bless you. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.
I can